Welcome everybody to MMBOnline. This is our third panel today in this room. Well, don't remember there's two panels going on at the same time, and you can attend whichever one you want. If you're here, we're talking about music producers during the pandemic. How did they take this crisis on? Let me start off by telling you that you can contribute with questions. You can ask them on Facebook, and my colleagues will make sure that I get them. The last 10 minutes of our panel will be about your questions. Let me welcome our panelists today. We have two Romanian well-known producers with an impressive hit record, each one of them. Alex Pelin is here. Hello, Alex.
Hello, everybody.
And also George Colin, also known as Manuel Riva. Hello, George.
Hello, hi everyone.
I'm very happy to meet James again. It's been what, 2 years now, James?
I think so. Yes, it would be 2 years. Yeah.
James is the founder of Pieces of 8 Music, which, as its core business, has the management of producers. So you're an artist manager, but your artists are producers.
There's some artists that started as a producer management company, and then I've kind of deviated a bit into artist management as well. So they're separate people.
Well, I don't think that the business of being a musical producer can be imagined or talked about without relating to the artists. And I'm sure that George and Alex are also in agreement with us. Now, I'm going to start this discussion by saying that I've been thinking, it was back in March, and I was thinking, dude, everybody's staying at home. So for the producers, this is a golden time. I mean, they have their artists there. I mean, they can work. It's true online. And for them, they're used anyway to, just staying in the studio for days at a time. So it's no big difference to them. And I wanna ask you if this assessment was true or not, because my first question is: was the pandemic an inspiration enhancer or an inspiration reducer? How did the producers take it? How did you take it? And let's start off with the producers themselves, and then we'll get to you, James. So either George or Alex.
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay. Obviously, not everyone has been finding this the right moment for creativity. Staying at home for so long, between the same walls, seeing the same few people. Let's say, would not bring too much to your inspiration, and while on one hand you have lots of free time at hand, you cannot really be inspired and sorry, that's my daughter.
Yeah, that's another thing, because if you have kids, they keep.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she's insisting. Yeah.
So inspiration is not something that you can command, even if you have a lot of free time.
You need a lot of things to increase your inspiration, to increase your creativity. You got to do lots of stuff to be in the mood all the time, and stay sane at the same time. Which is really important. Do fitness, eat healthy, whatever it takes to just deliver at the end of the day to yourself as an artist, to yourself as a writer, and to your clients, of course.
Alex, anything you want to add?
To be honest with you, in this pandemic, nothing changed for me. I work the same. Only one thing, I didn't do recording with the artist. That's it. I work like the same. I work only at night, so I've been in the same schedule. So I didn't see it like something that push on my shoulders, to say so. It was same thing.
So first of all, if you will only work at night, thank you for being with us at this time. It must be early morning for you. So
No,
thank you.
It's okay. I wake up at 2 p.m.
Okay, so yeah, you had your breakfast and your coffee.
Yeah.
James, how did the producers that you manage react to the pandemic? Did it impact their creativity in a negative way, or did they use the time to, you know, go into introspections and find maybe inspiration in places they didn't have time to search before?
I think it really depends, first of all, on the different types of producer, because some producers who are writer producers are quite used to working on their own and they don't actually need an artist there. And then some are more sort of traditional engineering type producers who are mainly recording, you know, live instruments or, you know, like artists in a session. So definitely the sessions kind of stopped over here in London. But then Matt Lawrence, who you met, for instance, managed to find a way to, he did a big film project, which was recording lots of songs for an artist. And we had lots of different musicians recording parts remotely and sending it into him. And that was a completely new experience for him, something he's never had to deal with before. It just took a lot longer, but he got there, and I think everyone's quite happy with the result. But I think what George said is very valid. I think it's you know, about the inspiration and also, you know, what environment you're at. Are you in the studio or are you at home with kids or you know, partner or whatever? And just, yeah, I mean, it's hard to sometimes feel inspired when you're just in a sort of real mundane routine every day. I mean, we were quite lucky that we did a lot of mixing work, which doesn't require usually the artist to be there anyway. So that would be perfect for one of the producers to go into his or her studio and just mix away like normal. I mean, the other thing we noticed really is that I think a lot of artists were reluctant to commit to recording projects and production projects just because of their live revenue that's dried up during this time, and without knowing when that might start up again, you know, they're a bit more, they have to be a bit more careful with their spend and their projects. So yeah, I think it sort of impacted us in lots of different ways, but you know, we're still here and everyone's been relatively busy, so we can't complain. Just hope it continues like that, really. And it's nice that there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah, hopefully. You kind of anticipated my next question, James, because of course the live sector being totally shut off, or still at, I think, more than 90% shut off right now. There's two problems that I can see. The first one you mentioned, there are many artists who rely heavily on the income that the live sector provides them, so they aren't so keen into investing in working with a producer. And my first question was, did you feel that impact? You already answered, but I'd like George's and Alex's input on that. And also, the live sector also provided a way to test out your songs, because once you have a new song for an artist, that artist can go ahead and test it out for the crowd. And there are many cases when the artist will come back to the producer and say, you know what, they're reacting to the song, but I think that if we change one more thing to it, it'll be better. So maybe before we release it officially, maybe, you know, polish it some more. So did that aspect of the absence of live performance impact your work as producers as well? So there's two questions, and I'm going to ask Alex and George to, you know, take turns, and then we'll come back to you, James. Thank you.
Of course, a lot of the artists would just postpone their releases for now. You know, most of them, until they find a new way to relate the new release to some income. this, of course, affects the revenues of writers, producers, everybody involved. On the other hand, I've been trying to release as much music as possible because I think this is the right moment to just deliver, you know. In my case,
even if that means not having a revenue right now.
Yes, and in my case, even having a narrower audience, because you cannot listen to dance music while I don't know, contemplating out the window. So, but still, I feel like I need to deliver. I need to release new music. There's so much more music to be done. I don't want to take a break or anything. This probably helps me or everybody else who does that stay fresh, stay relevant, stay in the business, you know. Meanwhile, of course, we have to find a new business way, a new way of doing things. We have to adapt to whatever is to come because nobody can tell right now what's going to happen. There's obviously a great online engagement, both from the fans and the artists, but it's still a pretty sterile way of doing things. You can't go out and ask for donations or anything. You just turn into the negative, the opposite reaction. So, I don't know. There's still so many things to be done, and I think we just have to adapt and see where this is going, you know, for now. Of course, everybody misses the live scene. Everybody misses the festival, the gigs, and we're all affected. But there's still a lot of things to be done.
Alex?
As I told you before, for me it was a little easier because I'm not an artist, I'm only a producer. So I talked with my team and we came to the idea to try to release as much music as we can. So we release a lot of songs and thinking right now about what we did, I think it was a good idea because we scored some hits with this strategy. I imagine it's kind of hard for artists right now, but for the producers, if you stay focused, it's not that much a change. I don't know what to say.
Well, speaking from the 100% producer's point of view, I'm sure that you're totally right. But I think that you still have to work with your customers' material. So if the artists hold back on their music, on making new music, does that affect you in any way?
They have only one choice because they don't have the live shows right now. They have only one choice to be active on the online. So I think that's the right thing to do right now until we things will come back to normal. I think the only thing you can do right now is to just to release music and to keep your fan base with you.
Engaged.
What I've noticed, if I may, most of the people are working on new music. It's just not all of them are releasing it.
Okay, which brings me to the first of all, James, is there anything you want to add here?
It's a bit. It's probably not a bit away from your question, but I think it's been quite a good time because of the live. I mean, there's opportunities with everything, really, every situation, and I think because festivals and live events haven't been going on, it's been a good time for new artists to. I mean, it's easier probably to get press, for instance, because they're not writing about the bigger artists playing festivals, etc. So there's a bit more space for new music to be written about. So I think if you're a sort of young artist who is, your project's quite early and you weren't making any money from live anyway, then yeah, I mean that it's probably been quite a good time in a way, and it's impacted those kind of artists less. So I don't know about.
Also, might I add that the times that we're living also provide opportunities for emerging artists if they find creative ways, or if they write songs that are, I don't know, they have a strong social impact or something like that. These are all opportunities for them to catch the media's eye and to actually get into the media's focus, a possibility that otherwise would be denied because all the spots would be taken up by the headliners, let's call them that, using a live sector term. Also, there's another thing that I want to draw to your attention, and I'd like your input on it. I was talking earlier with Impala representatives, and they were urging artists to release music as they make it, because otherwise, once everything picks up again, we will be flooded by new music and it will depreciate, devaluate, it'll lose relevance. We will be flooded with songs from everybody. What do you think about that?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't really thought about that so much, but it's a good point. So I'm sure it will happen. I mean, certainly from major label perspectives, there's been a bit of a battle going on with a lot of managers, where the managers haven't wanted to release, or have wanted to hold back on albums because there hasn't been a tour that they're able to promote it from. But from the record company's perspective, streaming was in a very healthy space before COVID. So they're just wanting to keep going and keep putting out music, recorded music. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, there will probably be a lot more music. There will be still a lot of artists who managed to hold back from releasing their albums, and, probably some big albums as well. So, especially now, because I think tours are starting to get booked for early next year. So there's probably going to be a very busy space. And I think it's even very difficult to get a lot of live shows at the moment, for that same reason, that there's been this huge sort of backlog now of, loads and loads of artists who've had their tours cancelled. So it's going to be very, very busy once it all kicks off again.
And even if those tours get booked for early next year, right now, there is no certainty that they will actually happen right now.
No, but I guess people are just hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I got this idea of this blockage that might ensue by observing the movie business. There are a lot of movies, blockbusters, that have been postponed because movie theaters are closed right now, and there are a lot of movies that were already scheduled for 2021. So there's only so many movie theaters in the world, and if regulations will allow cinemas to open again, 2021 will actually have more movies that it can afford. So I'm thinking maybe that this will happen with music as well, because there's only so many hours a day a person can listen to music,
and also only so much money that they're willing to spend on it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Alex, George, your input is very important here. Of course, you might have caught on that I'm actually targeting the artists that are and managers that are holding back on music. I'm trying to show them all the reasons for which actually releasing music right now might prove an opportunity, even if this opportunity does not translate into material benefit right away, per se.
Yeah, this is it makes sense, and this is something we discussed with my team, for example, early in March when it all started. So we said, whatever happens, nobody knew back then, just like now, how long this is going to take. So the decision was to just go on and do stuff and you know, do what we're here for at the end of the day.
Alex?
As I said before, I think, in my opinion, I think nothing is we have to change because you have to keep your fan base engaged. We writing a lot of songs, almost to some days, so we can ending with a lot of songs if we don't release them. And I don't think it's a good idea to just wait for the situation to turn in a better way.
I think also, just Dan, I would add that going back to your point about media space, but there's also playlist space on Spotify, which is, if it's less competitive, that's going to benefit newer artists and more emerging artists as well. So yeah, it does back up your theory that it's a good time to release music now.
Yeah, and not clog everything
not
next
wait
year.
until all the big, the big artists are coming with their albums, etc. So yeah.
Now I want to talk about something that you've touched, James, before. When you said that Matt Lawrence, who was our guest at MMB in 2018, I think.
Yeah.
He got to working with artists that were not actually in his studio. This is an opportunity because this is something else that I thought about. If this pandemic had hit for the internet, music would literally be dead, because back then musicians had to be in the same studio to record. That is right now no longer necessary. Have you, George or Alex, had such experiences of working with musicians that are not actually there? How is that different? And is it actually possible to have a normal output, a normal product at the end of such a session?
I think we've all done this before. It's nothing new. Of course, there's nothing like the energy you share with your co-writers when you're all in the same room. That's for sure. But we've done it before, so there's nothing new. In the last 4 months, I've done so many sessions, most of them through the internet, quite a few of them face-to-face in the studio, but with people I knew exactly where they come from, so it all works. I can say it's worse or not through the internet. One thing I'm trying to emphasize here, I noticed that not all the writers had the right equipment, at least at the beginning of the pandemic. A lot of them would just rush to get themselves a decent setup. So if you're in the business, grab yourself a decent recording setup, which is really not expensive. But a lot of the writers would just simply rely on studios in town, Otherwise, Zoom meetings and Skype sessions, they work.
Alex, does that happen for you, or are you working alone?
I work a lot on Skype actually, with my friends like Laurențiu Duț, Vlad Lucan, Alex Pătoi, and we have some things very interesting, and some very good songs. But I want to share something. After the artists came back in the studio, they were very happy. We didn't have a problem recording songs because they were happy, like, yeah, we can record songs again, So it not was so difficult for us.
I think there is the so-called homemade sound, but we've all been accustomed with this one. So it's been there for years. You hear it even on big artists, albums made entirely on laptops. So everybody knows that sound is nothing, unacceptable.
I think it's more acceptable nowadays since everybody understands that huge studio sessions with all the musicians there are impossible. Sorry, James, I cut you off.
No, that's right. I was just going to add that I think the remote working, I mean, as has already been said, it's nothing new. But I think, especially when writing songs with a producer, I think some artists really struggle with the remote way of working, and some do really well. So it kind of, and the ones who really struggle often, can be just as brilliant when they're in the room with the producer, but it's just for some reason over Zoom, they just feel really uninspired and they can't sort of get into that zone. So yeah, I think it might work for some, but it doesn't work for everyone. So
I think that talking about artists, that might be said also about artists who are amazing on stage, but not so good in the studio, and vice versa. There are types and types of artists, and that is actually quite a personal thing of each person that you work with. I was wondering, because both George and Alex told us before that they had to, work with artists that didn't have the proper recording equipment at home. Was that the case with producers that you managed? Did they have to convince artists to get better equipment at home, or are international artists more prepared for such a state of affairs?
Is that for me? Or?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people I work with have generally got pretty good equipment at home, or if they can still, like in the instance of Matt Lawrence, he was going into his studio and working remotely from there, so he sort of had everything at his disposal.
I meant the artists that he worked with.
Oh right, yeah. I don't know how. I think it's amazing. I mean, you would have to speak to someone who's more technically sort of knowledgeable than me. I mean, it's amazing what you can do these days. I think you can sort of guide them. You can pretty much set up some kind of mic chain, or and then as long as they've got some quite basic microphone, you can still get quite a good end product. I don't know how.
Yeah, definitely
done, but yeah, I guess it's easier than ever. I'm sure one of the producers, of George, will be able to explain that a lot better than me.
Yeah, I was actually referring to some international artists, songwriters who would miss at the beginning of the pandemic the basic recording setup. But just like James said, it's something you can do in with a basic microphone, basic interface, and laptop. You can get amazing recordings nowadays.
Another question for all of you this time. It's been known that music always responded to the environment, to the political, social environment, and there hasn't been such a universal crisis such as the one we're all living right now. And you are working with different type of artists of different maybe musical genres, and my question is has the time been too short from March till now for the pandemic to set a mark on the music being created? Or do you feel actually the pandemic affecting the music? I'm not talking about songs about the pandemic per se, but like, for example, just a parallel, let's talk about the Vietnam War and all the rock and roll scene of all the angry people that were saying no to their government. That was something that happened on a global scale, more or less. Is that happening with music now, or is it too early?
Shall I start?
Anyone who has an answer.
I mean, it's certainly, I think it will have an effect. I mean, it's been, certainly in my lifetime, it's felt like the first time that the world has literally pretty much stopped. And that has to have an effect on everyone. And I think everyone's, you know, reassessing how they live their lives and, you know, deciding that there's lots of things about how we were living our lives that we don't want to go back to. And, you know, if I think even just the way people work has completely changed. And if that has a lasting effect, then I don't know. I'd imagine it's not going to just be forgotten about. So it will sort of carry itself with the music, because that's just, you know, that's the reality of everyone's environment and how they view governments and corporations and everything, without trying to get too political here. But yeah, I'd imagine we will see some, you know, feel a bit of a change. You'd hope so. Otherwise, what would have to happen to ever change anything?
Yeah, that's a way of putting things that I hadn't thought about, but you're totally right. So what you're saying is that you're sure that the pandemic will have an effect on music, but it's not yet perceivable. What about Alex? What do you say?
Me personally, I see this pandemic like a reset for not only for the music industry, and I had the time, like 3 weeks, a month. I did nothing. I just stay home with the kids, and I spend time with them. I realized I didn't. I kind of. I didn't have so much time before to spend time with them, and I think that's the lesson that I learned in this pandemic. Your job is important, but you sometimes you forget the people that are around you. I don't know if it's gonna be a mark on the music industry because of this pandemic. I think we will see.
George?
Yeah, I think it's already influencing our work. Of course, you don't have to write songs about the disease itself, but everything we do, everything we encounter nowadays has something to do with the whole situation. So yeah, we're affected. We are involved in this, and we are inspired by the whole crisis. So
yeah, I was actually pretty interested in what you had to answer, because you're a dance music producer mainly. You're doing all types of music, but that's your main thing right now.
Well, mostly we've been writing, you know, trying to stay positive with the message. You know, you get the point.
Okay, we have
trying to stay on the bright side of things.
And that takes a lot of effort nowadays. We have a question from one of our viewers. Denis Nistor is his name. You might have answered this question already, but I'll still ask it because maybe you have stuff to add. How did this pandemic impact the relationship between producers and artists? And did this impact the producers' workflow, since some artists brought home some of the studio equipment? So if you have anything I know we talked about it, but if we have anything to add to that. And I think the answer could be in the output of music and the time that you need to produce a song. Did it get longer? Did it get shorter? Is it harder? Is there more conflict? Are there more situations where in the studio it takes a lot more time to resolve a certain difficult situation?
Yeah.
Yes, you probably don't have the same pressure that you get while working with the co-writers in the same room, with the artist in the same room. On one hand, on the other hand, there's plenty more time to work on stuff. So I think at the end of the day, in my case, I would get more music done. I've done, I think, 7-8 times more music than in the same period last year, when I would gig during the weekends and need a couple more days at the beginning of the week to recover. So you do the math.
Yeah, so you had like 1 or 2 days left for actually producing
Exactly.
per week.
Against 6 these days.
Okay, James, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think communication has been harder in a way. I can think of an instance where one of my producers has been working with an artist that they've never worked before, and it's actually a band, and they're based in another country. And yeah, he's been sending ideas over, and everything just feels a lot harder. But to get their feedback and their sort of how they're perceiving his ideas, and I think if you were together in a studio, obviously you wouldn't have those issues at all. So it's more of a sort of drawn out process and just a bit more challenging to kind of get to the end goal. Even though we've got all of these ways of communicating like Zoom and WhatsApp and phones and what have you, but an email, but still I think you still can't really beat the sort of vibe and the human this human interaction and just kind of understanding if everyone's on the same page or not, and reading people's body language. And yeah, it's definitely different, and I think it is harder personally.
Yeah, thinking back on the discussion that I had with Matt, I can't remember if it was the one in Prague or the one in Bucharest in 2018, but I remember that he was saying that a lot of times he's paying attention at how the artist is maybe positioning his or her body, because maybe the words say something totally different than their body language. Okay. And being able to read that is especially important for a music producer. I'm also thinking about the time that it takes to reach a conclusion, where in the same studio it would be a couple of seconds. Here it takes a back and forth of emails or files sent and being listened to, commented, and so on and so forth. The good thing is that time is something that everybody has at this time.
Yeah.
I have another question from one of our viewers, and it relates to the beginning of our conversation. I'd like Georgia and Alex to answer this one first, and also you, James, if you have input from any of your producers. The question is, how can you find inspiration and motivation for new music in these times, especially staying mostly inside homes? Because inspiration comes from the most peculiar places, but if that place is always the same, is it hard? What's your secret, if you care to share it?
I've been trying to learn new crafts, to get new hobbies, to do things that are interesting and that give me the excitement.
Can you name a few? What did you learn?
Yeah, photography, photo editing, this kind of stuff, where I didn't actually need to go too far from home.
Cool.
Yeah. Also, fitness. The kind of activities that you could do at home. Gaming with the kids, whatever it takes to just put a smile on your face, so that when you go back to the studio, you can work just as before.
Alex, what is your secret?
I remember talking with Laurențiu Duță, and he has a saying, after every big hit, I feel like I'm starting over. And I'm like I'm at the beginning again. So I see the thing with the music producer, for the music producers, like continuous struggle, because you don't know what you're gonna write, how good the song will be, and that's why I'm a little bit more positive, maybe, because the pandemic itself didn't affect me, and neither my friend who I'm working. So uh, as I told you, I try to stay focused. I do that when I'm in the studio. I don't work at home. I have ideas, but I record them on my phone and come finish them in the studio. Come and finish them.
So for you, it's very important to separate home from work. It's home is home, and
I
work
try to work at home. I can't. I prefer to spend some time with the kids, but I cannot. When I come here in the studio, something changed. I don't know. Even the guitar sound different.
Okay, guys, we're nearing the end of our discussion, and it's not a question, it's something that I ask of each of you. There are at least some tens of people that are watching this discussion. That means that there are at least some tens of producers that are watching us right now, and I'd like you to reach in yourself and just tell them what they can do. Just help them find a way to to have some good products on the table, even though I know times are tough, there's no money, there's the danger of becoming sick and all that. Just what let's have a short how-to, maybe 3 things from each of you that each producer can do to make their life easier to live. And it can be starting from food to actual professional advice, anything that you think might help somebody that is watching right now to approach this life with as much normality as possible.
Okay. I think actually you touched on it. I think health is really important, mental health, physical health. Especially if you're a producer, you spend a lot of time at a laptop or in a studio. You should really get out, start running or cycling or something every day, get into a good routine, a positive mindset. I'd say, that probably applies to pretty much all of us at the moment. I think also, you do have more time to generally to just practice your craft and just get better at it, and I guess maybe a few less distractions than normal, whatever our old normal life was. Just trying to get into a good balance and just trying to focus and just finding a way that works for you. There's lots of time to research and read up on things, and it's all on the internet really. Whatever new skills or new areas you're trying to improve on, there's so much knowledge out there, and often it's a case that we don't have enough time to actually look at it. But I suppose now we do have a bit more time, so try and use that to your advantage. Yeah, that helps.
So,
I'm not a producer, I'm just trying to.
Well, I think that what you said applies to producers, but it can apply to any field of activity anyway. So exercise to maintain a healthy balance between your physical and mental health, and also study upon your craft, or elaborate your craft, make it go deeper than you've ever had the time to do it before. Those are 2 very good pieces of advice. Thank you, James. George, anything you want to add?
I think. I just want to emphasize what James said. Health is definitely the most important aspect, and it's so easy to just neglect it. Secondly, focus on your goals. Get rid of whatever activities, even people who just distract you from getting where you want to get. and nobody knows for how long this is going to take, but at least don't sit there and wait, you know. Do your stuff and get to your goals.
Thank you. Alex, anything you want to add?
I think the most important thing is to believe in yourself. If you feel it in your bones, you have it. Don't let anyone or anything interrupt this. If you believe in yourself, just do it. Doesn't matter if it's pandemic or the guy who told you you're not talented, or if you believe it, just push it to the edge.
So believe in yourself, no matter what. If you're sure of yourself, go for it. Don't stop. Research, refine your craft, exercise, and also I want to thank you, all three of you, for giving us the time. I hope that next year we'll get to see each other face to face on a good panel at MMB 2021. Not talking about the crisis anymore, but talking about how beautiful life is again. Thank you all again, and all the best. Can't wait to hear your music.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Alex. Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
You just hit leave room and that's it. Thank you.